All right, everybody, welcome to today's edition of Notre Dame Daily. I want to start, obviously, the big news, camp ongoing. Almost pretty much a week into this now as we creep closer and closer to the August 31st opener at the Miami Hurricanes. And want to start with the wide receiver group. I know there is some cause for concern with some of the news that's come out of camp as it pertains to drop passes. And while that is noteworthy, this is not anything that should be causing some of the panic I've at least seen across social media here. Maybe panic's even a strong word, but I think you sort of get the gist of what I'm trying to say. One of the reasons, and there are many to be optimistic with this group from a camp perspective, is that the route running that we've seen has been elevated in camp from where it's been in past seasons. That's big. And when you also think about the overall depth and talent in the room with your big four, if you will, of Greathouse, more on Jaden momentarily, Faison, Fields, and Pauling, coupled with the continued growth of incredible athletes like Micah Gilbert, Cam Williams, and KK Smith, who, yes, the growth process for KK has been frustrating for some. You should be reminded, however, of the fact that this is the most talented wide receiver room Marcus Freeman has had now going into his fourth year at the helm of the program. Additionally, throughout camp thus far, again, almost a week gone, Elijah Burris and Scrap Richardson have looked extremely athletic from a playmaking perspective, so that's big. You knew there was going to be a role for Burris as a true freshman this year. Richardson can contribute in multiple ways on special teams. He's got speed and reliable hands, so maybe you see a move up the depth chart there for him as well. But that's good news from two highly recruited freshmen on the outside for Notre Dame. Going up against corners also, this shouldn't be undersold, like Leonard Moore and Christian Gray, is going to prepare the entire group for the grinds of a tough schedule. So for me, I'm not worried about any missteps thus far. It would be like panicking over an interception a quarterback for any given team threw on a given day and running with that and saying, oh, this is a disaster. He threw an interception. The proof's going to be in the pudding when you come out on the field to start the regular season. Camp is big for reps, camaraderie, and all that, working with your positional groups, getting used to one another. And while drops are always a concern, there doesn't seem to be enough of a pattern here for me on the outside to have any concern here. Noteworthy, as I said moments ago, yes, it is, of course, because these are things taking place in camp and they're worthy of discussion. But as far as I am concerned, again, this is a loaded group. It's a talented group. You're going to have a lot of speed on that outside, and you got some size now with Malachi Fields here. You couple that with the addition of Eli Raritan, who people are really excited to see as the full-go TE1. I think there's a lot of good things developing. We'll see how camp continues to go, but overall, I think things are just fine there. As far as the quarterback battle raging on, Carr or Minchie or Carr, we sit here toward the end of another week. There's still no clear-cut leader for that QB1 job in South Bend. While I do expect there will be purposeful roles for both this season, the Irish do still need to identify their starter, and they will. Most believe it's ultimately going to be CJ Carr, but this ongoing belief, sort of, that he is without fault and should just be handed the keys to the car is a bit much. Kenny Minchie, very much in the mix, as his own ability as a strong downhill passer. May not be as polished passing the ball as CJ Carr, but I think that gets overblown as well. Very mobile. Those traits truly stand out for Minchie. Simply put, this is a true competition, and it's continuing to evolve here in camp. With the coaching staff looking to create that separation between the two, they've picked up the speed of reps and plays in camp and tried to create some proverbial chaos in order to see how both react under duress, which is obviously something you need to be able to do, stay calm and cool, collected in that pocket, especially when you open the season against two very good defenses, one on the road in Miami and the second at home for the home opener against Texas A&M. Having a veteran presence like Tyler Buckner back in the quarterback room is going to help both of these young kids, as well as true freshman Blake Hebert. He'll learn from all of them. So we'll continue to see what this looks like as camp continues. But you love the veteran presence of Buckner back there because he's got three guys below him now who don't have that experience that he's had. You talk about what he brings as a D1 athlete, national champion in lacrosse, phenomenal athlete on that lacrosse field, former starting quarterback in Notre Dame, former starting quarterback in Alabama, comes back to Notre Dame and just wants to be a part of the team whatever I can do. And he worked his way back from wide receiver into that quarterback room. So whether it's Hebert, Carr, Minchie, they're going to learn a lot from TB, that's for sure. Sullivan, Absher, early on has looked good. Joe Rudolph is going to continue to see what he has from a fairly young yet deep offensive line. We know that the front five is going to be among the best, if not the best in the country. To that extent, the right guard position was a question mark heading into camp. And while young freshmen like Will Black have been seen taking reps at guard, Absher has looked the part and has received solid praise from his head coach as well. Recent presser by Marcus Freeman, quote, "We have a lot of confidence in Sullivan. At the end of the day, you have to play your best five. Right now, he is one of the best five, but it's a deep room," end quote. That is big. It is a deep room. It might not be overly deep from an age perspective, but they've got talent and they've got backups and reserve guys that are going to play a role one way or another this season, even if it's in a depth role, moving around the line, reps during games, or in a starting five capacity. But that is also tremendous news to hear about Sullivan Absher at the right guard spot. Again, 6'8", 300, Belmont, North Carolina kid, performing well in a job that became available due to another injury suffered by Charles Jagasaw. We expect him back at some point during the season. So much like the QB battle and the continuing growth of that wide receiver room, we will watch and follow and discuss how this continues to develop. But it certainly looks like the Irish absolutely do have something working here with the sophomore Sullivan Absher. Before I get into the player profile today, featuring Jaden Greathouse, just a quick injury update. It's a good one. Jordan Botelho continues to recover from that devastating torn right patellar tendon a year ago and the torn pec he suffered this summer. He's on a good track as it pertains to getting back on the field on a more consistent basis. Coach Al Washington, obviously right there with him. He's not going to rush the sixth-year edge back into a heavy workload. He's been very open about that, but the recent signs do point to Botelho being a big part of the Irish this season, as they do for Boubacar Traore, who went down last season with an ACL tear during Notre Dame's win at Louisville. I was there. It wasn't fun to watch. He's on the mend. And similar to Botelho, he's not going to be thrown back into the mix of things, as talented as he is. And we know the talent flies off the page. You saw it in the 5 games he played last season. QB pressure, sacks, turnovers, 4, scored a touchdown. He's not going to be thrown back out there, as good as he is, before he's absolutely ready to roll. Overall, this is great news. These are 2 great signs for Notre Dame from an injury perspective, as you're starting to get a feel for some of these guys working their way back to what is already a loaded roster. Big part of that this season is going to be Jaden Greathouse, and he's today's spotlight player. Leading receiver in the history of Westlake High School. He's continued to blossom, as you all know, into a reliable weapon for the Fighting Irish. I think that's an understatement. Picked up one heck of a time last season to have the first 100-yard receiving game of his career, doing so in Notre Dame's thrilling Orange Bowl victory over Penn State. Last season, his sophomore campaign racked up nearly 600 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns. Both statistics led all Irish receivers. Not overwhelming numbers, so I know that there was cause for concern about the depth of development on the outside and tight ends moving forward. But you have that depth now, and we're starting to see the development with Jaden Greathouse going into his junior year, expecting big things from him. You've got the further growth of Jordan Faison, the arrivals of Will Pauling and Malachi Fields. This lines up for Greathouse to continue his phenomenal run, which began last season in the CFP. The Irish are going to roll with Greathouse, Faison, and Fields as their top 3, with that support again coming from Pauling, Smith, Williams, Gilbert, and Elijah Burris. Easily part of the best receiving core, again, that Freeman has had. The big playability that Jaden Greathouse possesses is undeniable. Whether it's CJ Carr or Kenny Minchie, he's going to be their top target. And he's going to start the 2025-26 campaign coming off consecutive 100-yard outings to end the season. He went for $105 on 7 catches and a score in the aforementioned win against Penn State, and then for 128 and 2 scores in the national title game loss. So you talk about having a great time for your first 100-yard game and then following it up with your second in the national championship game of all contests. That's big-time football. And you saw some of the ankle-breaking routes he just ran last year. The good thing is here for Greathouse as a playmaker, both C.J. Carr and Kenny Minchie possess the ability to push the football down the field. So the opportunity for Jaden to make massive plays on the outside, beyond existence this season. And that's huge. As we saw last year, particularly during the CFP run, he's got a knack for making the big play. Incredible vision, route running, and speed make him a dangerous weapon on the outside for Notre Dame. Something Mike Denbrock is absolutely going to use beginning August 31st, right? I'm not reinventing the wheel there. Overall, production from Jaden Greathouse is going to be critical to the success of this offense. We know how phenomenal the ground attack, primarily led by the two-headed monster of Jay Love and Jadarian Price, we know how good they're going to be. Now, especially with a first-time starting quarterback under center, reliability, production, and the moving of the chains through the air is going to become essential for Notre Dame. Fields, Faison, Pauling, and these youngsters that I've mentioned and been talking about the last couple of weeks are all going to be exciting to watch, as is Eli Raridan. That being said, the passing game will go, in part, as Greathouse goes. He's that significant. I expect his great run down the stretch of last season to continue, which is going to allow one of the quarterbacks, Carr or Minchie, to gain comfort under center in easier and probably quicker fashion, because you have that reliable veteran who not only gets open, but can create plays and put up yards after catch upon moving those chains, which is a big deal. To have athletes like that who don't just catch the ball, turn, tackle, or go out of bounds is big. When you can make plays after consuming that football, it makes your offense all the more dangerous, because now Notre Dame has a more reliable pass game. You're not going to be able to produce the 900-something yards Riley Leonard put on the ground himself from the quarterback position. So you're going to have to make up with that somewhere. But now that you have that unbelievable stable of backs, especially with a healthy Jabron Payne and a rising talent in Kedron Young to go along with Williams, Price, and Love, you've got a really, really deep and talented, albeit young group of wide receivers that give you the ability to push that football down the field and create that confidence in your quarterbacks, which is a big deal heading into a season where, look, I said it in some of the comments yesterday, I don't think this schedule is as easy as people think it is. We know what happened last year with Notre Dame's lone loss outside of Ohio State. Nothing is a layup in this sport, especially at the high D1. There are a couple of games that people may not have circled that maybe you should. I don't think going to Fayetteville and playing Arkansas is going to be all that easy. Syracuse is no walkover. It can be a gritty time against the service academies. Boston College, USC is no joke. And I think Boise State, they start the season in the coaches poll ranked in the top 25, but I think they're going to be even a little bit better than people are anticipating. So it's going to be fun to watch, and I'm going to start getting into the schedule as we go and get closer and closer to August 31. But to have this weaponry at your disposal, while it may be young, it's deep. That running back room and on the outside and on up front on the offensive line. I think this is an exciting time to watch the evolution of this Notre Dame offense with Marcus Freeman and Mike Denbrock running the show. And I certainly think a guy like Jaden Greathouse is going to be one of the reasons why the offense is so darn successful this season. And you talk about depth. This running back room is the best in the country. And I'll close the show with this. Jay Love, Price, and Aeneas Williams, all named recently candidates for the 2025 Doak Walker Award, which is given annually to the nation's top running back. Now, you've got Jeremiah Love ran for over 1,100 yards and 17 scores last season. Price racked up almost 800 of his own, 7 scores. Both of them ran the ball per carry nearly 7 yards a clip. Which is just remarkable. And you talk about the freshman campaign that Aeneas Williams had, 219 yards on the ground, a couple of scores, 172 receiving yards, and he grew into a reliable role week after week, which was huge. And he was a big factor in Notre Dame's Orange Bowl victory over Penn State, both running the ball and as a receiver. So the developmental process for Aeneas Williams has been lightning quick. And you put him in that fold. And again, and I can't say it enough, a healthy and good-looking Jabron Payne thus far from what we've seen. And I think a rising star in Kedron Young. I mean, you've got 5 legitimate weapons back there. 3 of them are considered on the watch list already to be the nominee for the best running back in all of America. Notre Dame's got 3 of them. That's unbelievable. It's the most in the country. It's absolutely incredible. So we'll talk again more about Some more key players on this roster. We'll start getting into some of the defensive guys all across that two deep. As we get closer to the season opener, I'll start breaking down the schedule. We can have a lot of fun with that. We'll learn a bit more about some of the opponents that Notre Dame is going to see both home and on the road this season. For now, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you all tomorrow. And as always, go Irish.